Good morning. Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King is the most celebrated religious leader in this country. Oh, wait a minute. He trained in Fidel Castro's Cuba. His religious dogma is the same as communism. When it comes to peace, they were incredibly violent, and they say that personally he was a piece of trash of a human being, telling stories about ceremoniously bringing him women while his wife waited in the other room. He's one of the people who caused a profound change in our society. A revolution of individual rights, which is exactly what the communists said they were going to do in the 1950s. They produced an entire class of fatherless, uneducated citizenry who have no future and live in the most expensive ghettos in the history of human beings on this earth, communist housing projects. While they themselves, as a group, had all the sex and drugs and moved into the biggest houses they could get their hands on. Let's stop and start to collect a few notes. What did Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King's parents do? That's right, he had parents. You don't. Chances are you don't. They say he was educated to the hilt. He ended up with a PhD from Boston University, if I have the stories right. It doesn't sound very oppressed to me, while the people who are a product of these guys don't have a high school diploma and don't stand a chance. I have to sneak in something here, something that a gal told me last month. She has a 2-year-old and she was trying to come up with $1,600 a month rent, another $700 or $800 a month for childcare just to get started buying food and that sort of thing. You explained to her, well, why it doesn't work out and it's not going to work out. You also explained to her, well, these people, the gals who are the common housewife, are being accused of being lazy for not putting their child in a daycare center and going out and working in the factory, while Harry the hippie and Al the Afro and Donna the feminist live in the foothills and they control the housing projects and apartments. Let's keep this up. Oh, excuse me. Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King not only was protesting in favor of civil rights, whatever that meant to them, they were also protesting against the Vietnam War and abortion and that sort of thing. They didn't protest for communism, they protested against the war. They don't lie, they just don't tell the truth. When it comes to violence, that university professor, gregarious, nonverbal, coercive, and non-negotiable. Gregarious meaning they would have huge groups. Nonverbal meaning they would sing and chant, but words have no meaning to them. Coercive meaning they would throw bombs in the streets, and non-negotiable. Oh, that's right. Donna Shalala, the first black female Surgeon General. If we hadn't got everything we wanted, we would have tore it all down, she says on the year 1968 in review. Jane Fonda posing next to an artillery piece in North Vietnam saying, if people would just try communism. Angela Davis, I'm for the violent overthrow of the United States government and replacing it with communism, she said. I saw her a year or two ago when they were having riots. Today, riots organized by communists, evidently. And she was standing there with her fist in the air and giving the same speeches she's always given. But she got everything she wanted. They couldn't have asked for more. I was also told that she was paid thousands of dollars every time she gets a speech. I'd kind of like to hear more about this. And going into debt, they had all the resources they could possibly ask for. You have to give me everything I say, they would say, because you can go into debt. And since all you have to do is pay the interest on the debt, and since the United States is so large, theoretically you can carry that debt on forever. So you have to operate under the auspices of unlimited resources. That flies in the face of reason itself, but you can't throw out reason. Well, all they did was become the consumption society, the upper class in a peasant and property class society. What do I fight for? Let me remind myself what I fight for. I fight for God and country. The priest is a good guy, the pimp is a bad guy, and that represents a classic battle of good and evil. The gal who changes the dirty diapers gets the romance, and that represents straightening myself up emotionally. The priest who takes a vow of poverty maximizes profits, and that represents me trying to straighten myself up morally. And then I tell myself, the Pope holds the moral high ground, so I shall put the Pope in charge, and I realize I become conscious of everything. I become my own man, a normal, well-adjusted person as best as human beings can. Then I become a good husband, and then I become a good father, and I become a good citizen. Oh yes, and then there's home economics, where the married couple is viewed as a base economic unit. I picture a 1950s detached house from the United States. I picture a young couple in there, and I go off to the side and I start with farming and mining, and then above that manufacturing, and above that wholesale, retail, and repair. And doctors and lawyers form a kind of lattice with the priests and nuns causing this all to come into being. And I picture that couple choosing between buying, say, a couch and 2 recliner chairs, and all of the farms and mines, all of the manufacturing, all of the advertising and stores are all geared towards getting that couple whatever they want. And there's a catch to that. They have to be Catholic. The guy who does the producing does the consuming, and they have to make money by making people better off. So now I know what I fight for. These guys do the same thing that a pimp does in order to recruit a prostitute. They're just a bunch of cheap pimps. You have to stand up and confront them with that. The first rule in standing up to a cheap pimp is to recognize that you can't say the word no to them without having to face incredible violence. So be a Yank and man up and admit the fact that you're going to have to face violence. There's a YouTube channel down there. You're invited to go to the YouTube channel and join the gang in the playground. I hope you do.